if you would introduce yourself to our cohort. This is cohort G from LAC, and I'll have each of them introduce themselves and what their role is. But we'll start with you, Chris.
All right, hold on a second. I'm trying to get my audio set here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, terrific. Okay, did you say introduce yourself? Is that what you said?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, it's a pleasure to meet all of you. I'm Chris Gadsden. I've been on staff for 25 years or so with Crew, mostly in the United States. Actually, all in the United States. I've done some mission trips and that sort of thing, but I've been here the whole time, several places. So I've done campus ministry. I've worked with faculty and grad students, and currently working with Crew City in the arts and culture division of that. So a very small slice of the pie. I'm married. I have 4 children. There are 2 of them are in college right now. The younger 2 are in high school and junior high. I have a dog. I enjoy football, real football. I also enjoy American football, but mostly the real football. I'm a big fan. I'm assuming that's you guys may be football fans. Football. So you'll have to tell me about your favorite teams. I've always been a Barcelona fan. It's not quite as exciting now that Messi's gone, but I still watch them when I get a chance. I live in Kansas or near Kansas City. I live in Missouri, and right in the middle of the United States, and I'm very close to Kansas City. And there is hold on, I'll tell you in a second. There's a professional team, an American team very close to me called Sporting Kansas City, so I follow them. Messi is the name of Leon.
I think she knows Chris.
Oh, you're joking. Okay, Leo Messi.
She's from Brazil, so I think she's making fun of the Argentinians.
He's an Argentine.
She's from Brazil.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, he's there's some other players I like. I don't mind Neymar. He's okay. But so I'm following PSG now. With both of them there. So that's a general introduction to me. I don't know if you guys have questions. I'd love to hear from you as well, where you are and what you do.
Yeah. Maybe each of us could introduce ourselves, where we're located, what our role is, and if you want to say something about your family or whatever.
Hi, Chris. My name's David. I'm from Mexico. I'm currently the national team leader. We've been on staff for, I think, 20 years now. We have 4 children. Our oldest is 15, and they go from 15 to 7 years old. My wife's name's Kelly, and I like soccer too. I also like American football. But really, as far as soccer teams, I just follow my hometown team in the Mexican League, Monterrey Tigres. So, yeah.
Hi, Chris. I'm Toyo. Well, my name is Victor Leonardo Sanchez Ocampo. It's too long, but you can call me Toyo. I am the national leader of SLM here in Mexico. I am married. My wife is Heather. She's from Colorado. We have 3 kids, Caleb, Asher, and Grace. Nice to meet you. And my favorite team is Chivas de Guadalajara. Is the team that play with only Mexican players. So,
thank you.
I can go on. I am from Mexico, and I am serving in Mexico, and my name is Vania, and I am serving in the capacity of the development leadership in human resources for a year ago. So this is a new role for me, but I am very excited to serve here. And I like also soccer. And I don't want to say about teams, but I like I like all kind of sports, but especially I enjoy the Olympics and any global sport in general. that you could watch on TV, and I have a dog too.
Very good. Welcome, Marcelo. Marcelo, Elza, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I can. So hello, Chris. My name is Elsa. I'm Marcelo's wife. He's gonna introduce himself. We served 5 years in Brazil. After that, we served 7 years in Jordan. And we just came back from there. So we are now 4 months in Brazil. And I'm working in HR and part of global missions. And I love football, but just in the World Cup, I don't know a lot of. So, and I have like a local team who are, it's Fluminense and just that. And we have 2 kids, Raquel and Sophia. And I don't have a dog. I don't want to, but I think I think my family is gonna make a deal without me and have a dog.
Very good.
Hi, Chris. I'm Marcelo. Hi. And I am Elsa's husband. And I work with operations here in Brazil. And I love football or soccer, as you want to say. And the club that I support here in Brazil is called Vasco da Gama. But they are doing very bad now. So they are in the 2nd division, or like, yeah. So it's so very bad time for me about soccer. And yes, but I love my country when they play the World Cup and all this competitions I love.
Especially versus Argentina.
What was that? I didn't catch that.
Especially versus Brazil versus Argentina. He loves
Yeah.
Brazil.
Who won that
right?
last match? Okay,
And they
Nita.
won.
Well, I am Nita Thomason, and I'm probably the newest person on in this group as far as crew is involved, but I'm one of the academic mentors, and I am learning from Carl what to do. The females on this team are my team, and it has been so much fun to get to know them and see them. My other team is Texas A&M. And this was a really good weekend for Texas A&M. My sons both went there. We have 2 sons and 7 grandchildren. And a lot of them were at that game. And those of you who don't follow Texas A&M sports, they beat Alabama this weekend. And Alabama was #1, probably still is. But anyway, so it was a good weekend for Texas A&M football.
Well, thank you for sharing, Nita. And then I'm Carl. Chris, you and I know each other. Chris has been super helpful with coming in and just being willing to share his time and his expertise. And so, Chris, if you could just maybe help us focus on 3 questions. One is how to best use the learning experience. We'll start there. And then what they need to do for this project. And then lastly, how will this project help them in terms of their ministry of evangelism?
Okay, so I was shifting to get the lighting was really bad where I was sitting. It was kind of in my eyes, so I shifted here a little bit. So say those 3 questions again.
Yeah, well,
please,
we'll start with the first one. How to best use the learning experience that you created.
Well, this is my first learning experience that I've created. So I'm a rookie. So we're kind of learning as we go along here. How to best use it. I think I've tried to insert in a few places in there what I call a prayer project. And the prayer project is an opportunity to invite the Lord into your learning experience. I know for me, and this may be true for you as well, it's very easy to, when I'm doing academic work or when I'm studying something or reading a book, it's very easy to just do it just in a mode where I'm not thinking of God at all. I'm not thinking of the Lord or asking him to guide me in the process. So I think it's good to stop and do that on occasion and ask the Spirit to speak to you about what you're learning, just so you don't just waltz through the whole project in the mindset of just purely human academic mindset. Because this is more than just an academic learning experience, for sure. I hope it'll be a spiritually nourishing and encouraging one as well, one that draws you closer to the Lord. So I would say to keep those things in mind. That's difficult to keep in mind. That's not an easy thing to do when you're just trying to get the reading done, or when you're just trying to get through the material. I know sometimes you have limited amounts of time, and you're trying to be as efficient as you can. So that's one thing I would say. And how many of you have done these learning projects before, learning experiences before? By show of hands, or is this your first one? Okay.
They hopefully they should have all been interacting at some level on the different ones.
Okay. So some of you might be rookies like me, but yeah, if you've done these before, I don't know how different mine will be than theirs, but there's a certain amount of material, and I would advise against rushing through it. I mean, I know you have some timelines and you have other responsibilities, but the more time you can soak in the material, just kind of let it stew a little bit. By the way, thank you for speaking English with me. I don't speak Spanish, so I'm very grateful that you all are speaking English and allowing me to speak English. So thank you for that, even though I'm in the minority here. So taking time to go through it. There's quite a bit of reading, and again, I don't know how it compares to other learning experiences, but two mid-range books. They're not short, but they're not too long, but you want to get through those as well. I don't know if that kind of gives you a general overview, but does that sort of answer the question you're thinking of, Carl?
Yeah, so I'm gonna just pull it up and just give you a quick view. It's a longer learning experience. So there's a syllabus. I've put that into the drive. Okay, and so you'll want to look through that. That'll give you some guidelines. And then there's the required text that Chris was just talking about. And then you have just some general information here. But he's going to keep going down. What's a worldview? You can look at that, why you need to understand it. And you can see that each one of these has some things. Here's one of those prayer projects that Chris referred to. And then the nature and value of philosophy and how that relates to worldview. And again, there's your second prayer project. The role and experience, you can see here, of community and developing a Christian worldview. And then it's going to move into some issues of theology and the role of theology in developing a worldview. And then you're going to get more into the nuts and bolts of engaging non-Christians in their worldview. And then it's going to culminate in a worldview project. And that's described in the syllabus. So that's pretty much how the learning experience is laid out. So I would definitely encourage you to look at the syllabus. It's both on the learning experience, and then I copied it and put it in our drive. So, okay, that's great. How about the, what will they need to do for this project? What are some of the, as they're trying to think and organize their time, what kind of things will they actually be doing?
Right, so a couple of things to keep in mind. So there are 2 books you'll need to read pretty much in their entirety. So to keep that in mind. One of them, the one by Randy Newman, which is about, it's really about evangelism and about interacting with non-Christians, but using questions, right? Which is really the tradition of Jesus and the rabbinic tradition of, not just preaching at someone or just communicating one way, but asking questions as a way of really engaging people. And so it's an excellent book. You'll read that, and then you'll write a 1,000 word summary. I call it a précis in the syllabus, or later in the learning experience, I call it a précis, but that just means a summary on what you take away from the book, what the basic idea of the book is, and kind of what you take away from it. And 1,000 words is not much. 3 pages, double spaced. That's pretty simple. So that's one thing to keep in mind. You'll also read the book by James Sire, but you'll read that in chunks along the way, a couple chapters at a time here and there. And you'll engage with that book mostly when you get to the sort of historical survey of worldviews, which is a little bit later in the project or the learning experience. So you'll interact with that book, and there are some small places where you'll type in a response, a fairly short response to what you're learning directly into the learning experience. Won't submit a separate paper for that. And there are lots of those in each past step. You'll have some opportunities to respond to questions about what you're learning. Or the prayer project, you'll be able to record some of your reflections on what you learn in the prayer project. And these are they don't have to be super lengthy, but just an opportunity to share with us, your mentors, just what you're experiencing, maybe what has stood out to you, what the Lord is pointing out to you. And then at the end,
let me interject
project,
real quick, Chris.
Oh,
real quick, let me just interject. So what you can do is with those prayer projects, just so you're not doubling up work, is you can use those as your learning journal entries. That'll communicate to them, Chris. And that way, if you write something, again, you can put it in the drive and we can just bring it into the learning journal. And then Chris, we can make sure that you can see those if you want to see them.
Okay. Yeah. And then at the end, you'll do the Worldview project, which hopefully that project will be an opportunity to take all the things you've learned, sort of the theory behind everything, the nuts and bolts of worldviews, what makes a worldview, how to critique and understand and analyze a worldview, and how to interact with others using questions and looking for marks of truth and coherency in other worldviews. So you'll take all those skills and ideas you've accumulated through the learning experience and then put them to use. Put them, take the rubber, or take it to the streets, I guess you could say. I don't know if there's a Spanish expression for that, but taking it to the real world and interacting with other people live in real life, and should be a great learning opportunity as well. I noticed, I was looking over the syllabus before we got online here, and the way I have it laid out right now, the Worldview project is about half of the grade. I think that could be modified by the mentors if depending on what how they're processing the experience as they go along. And I also had on there something called reflection papers. And I realize now that was not very clear. We may have to clarify that, but that would probably right now, that would include the paper you'll write, the summary you'll write of Randy Newman's book. And that's really the only paper you'll submit at this point. The others, reflection opportunities, will be entries you make in the learning experience itself. You'll just type it right into the screen in a box. But I'll talk to Carl about that. We'll make sure that's clear.
Okay. And then the last one, Chris, is how will this project help them be more effective in their ministry of evangelism?
Yes. Well, I think of what a good doctor is like. When you go to see a doctor, you walk in and the doctor doesn't just immediately prescribe a medication to you based on how you look. What does a doctor do? What is the first thing a doctor begins to do when you come into their office? And this is that you can chime in here, respond to the question. What does a doctor do when you come in?
This should begin by starting to ask questions.
Right. Yeah. So a good doctor, right, won't just say, here's a prescription, I'll see you next week. They'll ask you questions, and they know exactly what kinds of questions to ask to find out what's really at the core of the problem, right? What's really going on? They can cut through maybe some things that aren't very clear to get to really where the real cause of the pain is, the real cause of the discomfort. And doctors are trained in asking these questions. They're like diagnostics. That's the term, asking diagnostic questions to really find out where a person is. Because when we are beginners in evangelism, and I think this is somewhere in the learning experience, I have this in there. In the first stage, and this comes out of an older book, an excellent book by Mark McCloskey called Tell It Often, Tell It Well. I'm sure, Carl, you're familiar with that book, probably. But he says there are 3 stages of communication. The first stage is very self-centered. It's when you go to talk to someone, but you're very worried about how you look and how you sound, and do they like you, and do you have food in your teeth, right? And that's kind of the first stage, and we all we start there, and then eventually we move on to the second stage, which Mark McCloskey says is the message-centered stage of communication, where you're mostly focused on getting the message right? You want to make sure you say that the whole gospel message. You want to get it all right, get it in the right order, get all the details correct, say it in a really good way, and then you've done your job, right? If you just get the message right, you've done your job. And that's good, but that's only in the middle stage, because the ideal or the best place to be, the most mature stage of communication, is when you are centered on or concentrated on the other person, the other-centered stage. And so you're not so worried about yourself. You have a message, you know how to communicate the message well, but you're not focused merely on saying something correct. You're not focused on just rehearse or repeating a memorized message. You're more interested in interacting with that person and finding out where they are, and that's done by asking questions. And so I think the first half or the first 2/3 of this learning project prepares you for that process of learning to ask good questions and interact with people, to really find out what they believe, why they believe it, where did they get those beliefs, how is it all structured together, and then you can begin sharing what is really relevant and helpful to that person where they are, right? Because every person is different. Every person may need to hear something different. They may need to have something different emphasized, right? Some people are very far from God. Some people are very close. Some people are already Christians, but they're very, very young or very weak in their faith, or they're struggling with doubt. And some people, of course, are not Christians at all. And some people come from different kinds of religious backgrounds. They may not believe anything, right? They may be atheists, or they may be Buddhist or Muslim, right? And if they come from a Christian tradition, they may come from a Catholic tradition or a Pentecostal tradition. So just understanding where they are currently can help you. Like if you want to take them from where they are to point B, then you have to know where that person is starting from in order to give them a path to get to that destination. So I think the things you'll learn in this project will make you a much better evangelist, because it'll help you be others-centered in your communication, and really be able to listen to what a person is saying and really discern what their need is. And one of my favorite passages about evangelism is in Colossians chapter 4, where Paul talks about being able to speak to every person in the way that they need to hear. Like I'm blanking on the actual verse, but he says, we want our speech to be seasoned with salt. We want it to be oh gosh, how does he say it? I just need to look it up. Or maybe somebody else has Colossians chapter 4 handy, if you have a Bible in front of you. But he's very concerned with making sure that he talks about being prayerful, praying for open doors, so he can make the gospel clear, right? So making it clear, that's very important. And he says, walk with wisdom toward outsiders, making the best use of the time. Let your speech be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know you ought to answer each person, right? So you can know how to answer or respond to or talk to each person. Instead of having one message that you just give to everyone, you can tailor the content of your message to each person to know what they need. So that's what I think is really valuable about this learning experience. It's one of the best parts of it.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. Okay, what I'd like to do now then is just open it up and respond, or just if you have questions, because you really want to, this is where you're going to be spending the next couple of weeks or month. And so you're going to really want to be able to hone in and make sure that you get the most out of this learning experience. And since we have Chris here, I thought it would be a good opportunity for you to ask him any questions that you might have. So it can be based on anything you've heard or something that you're wondering.
I have a question, but before, thanks, Chris, for this introduction for the project. Appreciate it. But I heard that you mentioned that we're going to read 2 books. And my question is, how are we going to get them? We're going to buy them?
They're they're available in the library. You have access to the library.
Okay, we'll go to the library. Okay.
Yes. So there'll be electronic versions available to you. Unless, Chris, you have physical copies that you can we can use and just put those in our resource thing, and then when we're done, we'll just get rid of them.
Is there available in Spanish or just in English?
That I don't know. Do you know, Chris?
Well, I know that there are Spanish editions of both books. So hopefully we can find a way to get an electronic version of those books to you guys. I'm not sure the best way to do that unless you want to purchase the books yourself electronically. Do you all purchase books online very often? Do you purchase books for a Kindle or for an e-reader, or is that something you guys do very often?
Yes.
That's a question. Okay. So, for instance, I use, Amazon is probably the place I go to look for books. And I know you can find a Spanish version of both of these books there. And of course, you could order a hard copy, but you should be able to get a Kindle version. But, we can work that out. We can make sure we get those available to you guys one way or another.
Yeah, and for sure in English, they'll be in the library, the Kairos University Library. You'll have access to those in English.
Carl,
yes.
I'm just thinking that I wonder for those who are only Spanish reader, the Latin will find some like similar to read, and maybe that could work, or necessary we need to read that and those books if we find them only in English.
Okay. Yeah, let me I'll deal with the leadership on that and see if they can get electronic versions for everybody, and maybe even deposit those in the library and add to the library of Kairos University, and that way everybody would have access to them. Okay.
In the let's see, in the syllabus, actually in the learning experience, under required text, I put a link in there. I'm trying to click on them right now, and the link is not working. Let's see, open link.
Yeah, I've got it. I should.
Maybe I didn't put the link in correctly. Let me see if I can. Okay. I guess if you right click on the link, it'll take you to the Amazon page for that book, the Spanish edition of that book.
Just a question.
Well, it should have.
Are the books, the project's not available for us? Is that right?
Oh, did you say the books are not available? I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Hey guys, is the project available for us?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
completed.
completed.
The project number 9. You can.
Yeah, it's in both English
it.
and Spanish. So it's been translated and it's complete. In fact, I'm in the project right now.
Okay.
English is not available.
Okay, back to the books. I'm looking at. I got a link. The link in the syllabus does work, or it's not in the syllabus, but in the learning experience. It'll
Okay.
take you to where you can order a paperback, but it does not give you the option of an electronic version. So we'll have to work on that. I'll work with Carl on that. That's at least for Universe Next Door. Not sure about the other one. Let's see here.
I think the question evangelism is available as a PDF.
Okay.
I just now Googled it.
Oh, that's terrific. And in English, though?
It's in English, so I don't know about Spanish, but.
Yeah, Nita, if you get that and it comes as a PDF, can you just put it in the resources? I created some new folders for Project 9, and you can just put it in the resource folder, and then that way you'll all have it available in English. And again, I'll deal with the Spanish side, so you all don't have to worry about that.
Okay, so in the learning experience, the link to the Spanish version of Randy Newman's book, it does give you the option for a Kindle version for $12.99. So at the very least, you could purchase it. I mean, it's a book worth having in your library, your personal library, if funds are available for that. So at least you do have the option for the Spanish version electronic on Randy Newman's book, and that is in the link to that is in the where it says required texts in there.
In the learning experience. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Other questions?
Excuse me, guys. Just two things. The first one is that we are trying to look for the Project 9 and we're not finding it. So it's not available for us. It's the second thing that we would like to read because the name of the book, so we can try and look if there is something in Portuguese. So so sometimes there is some things in Portuguese. So if you can please write the names here, because it's better. Read and look
Elza,
for it. And after that,
Elza, those names they're in if you go to our drive, you go to Project 9, you go to resources, the syllabus is there, and in the syllabus are the titles of the books.
okay.
So what you'll see when you pull that up is this. Here. Or if you have a camera right now, you can just take a picture. It's right there. So here's the syllabus. And it's these two books, James Sire and Randy Newman's book. So you can either screenshot it or take a photo, or you can go on our Google Drive, and then I will work with, I don't know why that your Project 9 has not been available. It's been completed for quite some time, and it's been translated into Spanish. So I'll have to find out why it's not showing up.
The other thing that we don't look the path right in Spanish, because
Correct.
So we are looking for in English, and it's, I don't know what happened, but we are trying not to find it.
Yeah, I can't find it either. I looked, but I can't find it.
I've looked at it. I know I can find it, so I don't know.
I'm writing Cecil right now. So if you have other questions for Chris, let's go ahead and ask those. So the last thing they're going to do, the interview, you guys, are you clear on what the interview is going to look like and how you're supposed to conduct that?
You may not have had a chance to read through that part of the syllabus yet. So the idea there is that it's basically a chance to sit down with several different people from as many different backgrounds as you can find. People different from yourself, for sure. Like if you can interview people who are not Christians, that would be great. Different ages, different genders. And you'll just have a set of questions you'll ask them in an interview style, and you'll record their answers. And the questions are just intended to help reveal their worldview. Questions that'll help show you what their worldview is. And then you'll have a chance, and where the conversation goes from there is up to you, of course, in the project. But you're only required to ask those questions and just record their responses. It's a lot of listening. If they want to hear from you what your worldview is, and you can certainly share and talk to them more. But it's mostly an act of listening. So, and then you'll record their answers in a summary form, and then you'll give a little bit of analysis and just say, oh, here's what I think their worldview is. Here's how I would respond to them, in a conversation, and what you learn from the experience. So it's really just interviewing people, listening to them, recording their responses, and then putting that in a paper where you can summarize what they said and what you learned from it, and maybe common threads you saw from the interviews, things that were unique. So it should be a lot of fun. I think it should be a lot of fun to have these conversations and really listen to people. And the more interesting, subjects you can find, the better, So instead of just going to your regular, don't look for people outside of church, maybe go to an unusual place that you can find some really different people and to get some really good interviews.
Yeah, another thing you can do is you can video them. You can do an MP3 if you're, just tape them, and you can upload those if you want, if that would be helpful.
Yeah.
And one of the nice things too is if you find that this is a helpful way to engage people that you might not normally engage, then you can have students do the same thing. Say, hey, we're going to spend this week or the next couple of weeks just meet people that you've never met, and here's some basic questions we want you to ask. And it'll give you a sense of what students are thinking currently, and maybe especially post-pandemic, since that's going to have influence how people are thinking about life in general. Okay, Vanya has a question. How many people are we going to interview?
Yes, you will interview, let's see.
I think it was 3.
Yeah, I think the minimum is 3. You can interview more than 3 if you want to. I'm just looking it over really quick here. Yeah, I think 3 is a good number, a minimum. But I wouldn't interview too many people. It would just give you too much data to analyze. So, but 3 good conversations. Yeah, it's funny, in the interview project description, I don't think I specified how many people. Oh no, it says, yeah, you'll interview 3 people. Okay, so yeah, 3 is good.
And I thought it was interesting that you said for us to identify their fault lines. I think that'll be a good, like some people have contact with a lot of Muslims in our group. And so to go back and interview some of those could be real interesting. Figure out those fault.
Yeah, and you'll learn about fault lines. It's one of the last parts of the learning experience. The idea of, everybody, even Christians, have parts of their worldview that aren't quite coherent, aren't quite working correctly, and need to be fixed. So, you'll even find this in yourself as you go through this. You'll realize there are beliefs you have that maybe aren't quite accurate or don't match up with the biblical worldview, things that are inconsistent. And so you'll even want to do that kind of work and analysis on yourself and other Christians. But a lot of times with people who've never thought about what they believe very deeply, they'll have lots and lots of contradictory beliefs and all kinds of gaps in being able to understand how the world works. And so those are kind of the fault lines. You'll learn about that. But yeah, it's very helpful because those are the places often where you can really begin having a really interesting conversation.
Hey, Chris, I just got from, I don't know, Vanya, if you're the one who originated, but it looks like you found it. Am I correct? Okay, so Vanya, could you walk us through how you found Project 9 so everybody else can be aware of how they get to it? And David, can you allow her to share her screen?
Yeah, everyone can share.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Just
Can you,
give them-
Vanya, if you don't mind sharing your screen and just showing us the process, how you got there?
Yes, just give me a minute. Oops, my Safari was closed. I need to open it. Okay, Kairos. Okay, I'm gonna share it.
And then be thinking of questions, and then we're gonna let Chris go. I know he came out of another Zoom meeting. So once well, actually, any other questions, and then we can figure this out independent of Chris, so he doesn't have to sit and wait.
Okay, well, I am in my profile,
Okay.
and then I went to ILC here,
Okay.
and I found it here, the ILC Unity Project 9. So I went here and I start the course.
There you go. Okay.
You know, I should mention also, of course, I had a lot of help from Carl and a few other people in developing this material. So Carl has put quite a bit of content in as well. And so if you have questions about the theological, biblical aspects, that's Carl's area of expertise, really. So.
Hey, Chris, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the perspective cards.
Yes. Yes.
It seems like a similar, or it seems like the perspective cards use this approach, in some way. Yes, absolutely. You know, I should have probably tied that in more to your final project. You could use perspective cards as a way to get a conversation started, for sure. But that's a much more simplified way of doing it. The Worldview project you're doing and the things you're learning are much more complicated and sophisticated. So you're going to be learning a lot more content. But yeah, this would give you a lot more background in using the perspective cards and teaching others how to use perspective cards. It'll give you a much better understanding of sort of the inner workings of each of those worldviews. And of course, there may be even some ideas in the perspective cards. I'm just thinking through it right now that we don't cover in the course. But I don't know. I'm not sure if there's some thoughts in there that aren't included. But yeah, those perspective cards are great. I love them.
Okay. Any last questions? All right. Well, Chris, we really appreciate your taking the time. Thanks for giving us an overview on those three main areas. And again, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Very nice to meet all of you. Hope you have a wonderful day.
Chris, if you have time, one more question. I don't know if it's
Yeah,
kind of like
sure.
deep, but it's just, I don't even know how to phrase it, but I guess I'm more like, how have you seen success or the benefits of people actually coming to Christ? Because I mean, I've gotten into a lot of conversations similar, I think I still learn a lot, but rarely do they come to the person making a decision. So I just want to know in your experience or
Well, I think the way I look at it is we have to take a long-term view, right? We have to think of this as a longer term than just one meeting. I don't know what the spiritual climate is like in your countries, in Mexico and other places. I'm not as familiar. I've only been to Mexico once. I spent a few weeks in Puebla. But the spiritual climate in America, there are many places where, people just are not. They're not ready to hear the gospel and understand it first time. They need a lot more conversation. They need a lot more relational experience with Christians. And so what I think the worldview, understanding worldviews and understanding how to have these conversations, it's more of a long haul approach where you're thinking this is not one meeting, not two meetings, maybe not even three meetings, but 4 or 5. It could be something that helps you process with a person over a course of a year or maybe 2 years. And I think more and more we have to think more long-term in our evangelism, because otherwise we'll be very frustrated if we think, oh, they didn't receive Christ in the first conversation, then what's wrong? I'm a bad evangelist. No, no, I don't think so. People are all different kinds of places, and we just need to be sensitive to that. So this will give you a broader set of skills to where you can talk to someone who is ready in the first meeting, or you could talk to somebody it's going to take them 5 years, right? And you will meet people like that. And a person who only knows how to recite the 4 laws or a very simple gospel presentation just doesn't know what to do with a person who's a year away, right? You don't have that much material to go over. So after this course, you'll have the skills and some of the knowledge and resources to have conversations that could go on for a long time. You know, I have a guy right now that I've been meeting with for probably the last 5 years, and you know, we're still in process, and it's still an ongoing conversation. So, and that's important. You know, so every inch that someone moves toward Christ, even if he's a mile away, every inch that is moved toward Christ is wonderful, right? That is something to be celebrated. And when they get to that last inch and they make that transition, that of course is amazing, and we love that. But we have to celebrate even the small steps who are very far away. So every step forward is a celebration, I think.
Great.
Yeah, I
Thank
think
you.
another part is, you know, and Marcelo and Elza being in Jordan, you really want to begin to understand, or David, when you were in China, what's the concept these people have of who God might be? What is the nature of sin? What is a human? What makes somebody human? Those kind of things become really important issues. And if we don't understand what they're thinking, we can be using the same terms, but we're not communicating. I mean, it's almost like talking to a Mormon. You can talk to them about Jesus Christ, but their concept of Jesus is so different than the concept of the Bible, you know, that we're really not communicating. And so worldview, I think, helps us to begin to hear the language they're going to use and how they're defining terms. It helps us to know how to engage them on, okay, so your understanding in Chinese society is that no human being is individually sinful. It's a societal problem. And so then if you have to start from that perspective, then you're going to have to help them understand, well, there is this thing called personal sin, and tie that in. But if you don't understand that, then when you're talking about sin, they're thinking, well, first of all, I'm not a criminal. Second of all, it's not a personal problem, it's a societal problem. And so when I try to help them understand the nature of sin, they don't even begin to understand it. And so I'm not really communicating with that person at that point. And I think that's the strength of what Chris was talking about, the issue of questions. You know, and it's interesting, if you think about Bible study methods, where do you begin? Questions. You ask questions of the text. When you're thinking about leadership and how you want to be able to come underneath and make somebody successful, how do you do that? You have to ask questions. And so all of these things relate to us moving from, you know, being more maybe us-centered or our agenda to really trying to figure out, where's this person at? And questions begin to reveal all that. So, well, thank you, Chris. We'll let you go. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, Chris.
my pleasure. De nada.
Thanks.
You.
Gracias.
Okay, bye-bye, Chris.
Buenos dias.
Okay, hopefully that was helpful. Elza, I have to admit, when I was looking at the people's faces on the screen, you looked a little scared, especially when you mentioned the 2 books. Are you okay?
Yes.
Not too scared?
I was just really confused by
Okay.
not found the thing and trying and
Okay, so what I would encourage you is to really just start working your way through the learning experience. Just read it, become familiar with it. When you have answers, you can put it in the little, there is that little space below, you know, where you can put in your input. Collectively, when you get to those prayer things, just make a separate document, stick it in our